What's up, everybody? Welcome to our review in progress first impressions video for Destiny. I'm Ryan Telgenik with GamesRadar.com.
And I'm Lorenzo Valoria, also with GamesRadar.com.
I'm glad we've established that right away, but all right.
Yes.
Lorenzo, Destiny came out today, right? Yesterday, last night at midnight.
Yeah, it did.
This morning at midnight.
And I fell asleep, unfortunately.
Of course. All right. You know what? So let's get some ground stuff out of the way. We are playing on an early character because we don't want to spoil any of the late game stuff for people who are, maybe on the fence of picking up the game. But we are far enough in so we can get a good feel of the systems that are in place. So we can take a look at a lot of them. We can take a look at a lot of the different things that you can do in the game. And right now, why don't you back out of this screen?
I was getting my mail.
We'll worry about mail in a bit. But right now we are on the tower, which is Destiny's kind of hub area that you go to turn in quests, buy stuff from vendors like new ships and equipment. You do all kinds of neat things here. And, of course, it's very, very beautiful. Here we're looking at...
This is the last human city.
Right. So,
very nice.
So in Destiny, right, like the darkness followed that big moon-looking thing called the Traveler. Which is like an alien or something?
Yeah, we don't really know what the hell he is yet. We haven't played through the game all the way. But he's like some kind of savior that saves humankind and protects them and gives the Guardians, who, you're one of the Guardians. He gives you his power.
Yeah, so anyways, the story is pretty much most of humanity's been wiped out, and you are one of the last defenders now trying to fight back against the evil alien races. So, I mean, that's kind of as much story as you need. You're really just running around shooting things. And then here we're seeing some of the various class trainers. There's the Hunter, the Warlock, and the Titan. So we're playing as a Warlock right now, which is basically like a space magician.
He's like a Jedi with a gun, I like to describe him as.
Yeah.
He's got like force powers. He could do force pushes and throw orbs of dark energy-ish ball things that blow things up.
Now, the other classes you can choose from, the Hunter, which is what I'm personally playing, is... I guess Destiny's equivalent to like a rogue type character. They specialize in long-range shooting, or one of the subclasses that you can choose, and we'll talk more about those in a little bit, is more of a close-range character where you're doing a lot of flashy knife moves and stealth moves and things like that. Yeah. So I'm having a lot of fun with that one. And then there's the Titan, who is more of an in-your-face kind of character, has heavy armor, does all kinds of cool smash moves like Hulk smashes. I haven't tried that one out yet, but some of my friends that are playing it seem to really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, I played that one a little bit in the beta, and it is really cool to do the jump up in the air and smash the ground and just like evaporate every single person around you. But I'm kind of just running around the tower here, looking at all the different NPCs. All these people, you can do different things for them, and you get rewards like a typical MMO. So you got your class trainers, you got your weapons merchants and ship merchants and all kinds of stuff. So you can equip all kinds of weapons.
Lots of customization stuff. And in fact, on our website right now at GamesRadar, we have 25 redeemable codes that anybody can use. They're not just one-time use codes. So check out that article. We'll actually link it in this video description here. But redeem all that stuff. You get all kinds of some weapon skins, some Grimoire cards, and emblems, that sort of thing. So let's jump into a mission, though, to show off some of the gunplay.
So I jumped into orbit. So let's go to Earth and check out some of this stuff. So you get this overworld map where you could start basically in any of these locations and then run around this whole area. But I have some quests here, which I think I'll go to. And you get this nice little ship. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can get other ones as you play. So go ahead and launch. And while we wait for that to load in. So also in this screen, though, you can team up with other people. You can make things called a fire team, which is basically just a party. If you're familiar with MMOs, you can group up with pretty much anybody and embark on these quests together. And it's obviously encouraged. Destiny is a shooter MMO. So teaming up with other people is definitely a fun way to play it. And there's a lot of cool things too you'll sometimes find during missions, particularly difficult enemies that are maybe much higher level than you, where having another person or two at your side would be really beneficial in being able to take those down. So
here we go. So I just jumped right into
So we're in like one of the story quests right now, right? So When you're in that overview map, you can choose story missions like this one, which progress the plot, or you could choose to do things like there are like these free roaming zones where you can pick up little side quests to get more loot and to level up that way too. So right now, Lorenzo is fighting aliens from these are the Fallen. They are kind of like spider nomads, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, I guess that's the best way to describe them. They're like, they have all this like random like technology that's kind of just assembled out of junk.
Yeah, and you can see the shooting is a little bit right, like Borderlands. You see the numbers to give you damage indicators, but I'd say for me personally, it feels more like the shooting of Halo, but you also just have damage indicators. It's not like Borderlands where the shooting doesn't really feel like it has any impact or it doesn't affect the enemies in any way, sort of thing. You know?
Yeah, I think as long as you're hanging out around the same level enemies, you're gonna get that Halo feel from fighting them. You're not gonna be like shooting a million bullets into them or anything like that.
Yeah, so the shooting does feel really, really good. And that was one of my concerns coming into the game, right? Where we've seen other developers try to make shooter MMOs before. And a lot of the times, the way that pans out is, something like Defiance, where you're third person, you're shooting something, but it just feels like you really don't have any real impact or effect on that enemy, right? Like, it just feels like your guns do nothing except you see them chipping away at a health bar. Whereas this genuinely feels like a good first-person shooter.
Yeah, and I totally just died.
Right. And it's pretty tough, right? Like, it's not just a super baby mode game where you're running through. I'd say the difficulty is pretty much on par with, any of the shooters I played, really. There are stretches where they're pretty simple. Then there are stretches where there are tons of enemies at once that you have to defend against or, like, protect a thing from waves. And all of those experiences are rather difficult. And again, that's where you're really going to want to try and find people to play with.
Yeah, when you get into a strike mission, those things get really tough, especially when we played it in the beta. It was really hard to get through one, especially if you're just playing with some random people. I think it's a good thing when you have a couple of friends that you trust to play with.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about strike missions in a second. But one thing real quick, too, about these enemies is there is a very obvious hierarchy to them, right? Like, this captain has this big blue energy shield, and he can warp around. And he's got some more powerful abilities than the people under him. And that's true of all of the various races you'll encounter in Destiny. So you really do get a feel that there's this sort of, top-tier enemies that are commanding the grunts. And very, very Halo-ish to me in that way.
Right.
So it's not just like, a Call of Duty where all enemies are just random gun fodder. It does feel like there's some sort of, class to the enemy races. Now, one of the things, Lorenzo, that you just did, too, was you threw your big purple Warlock grenade.
Right.
So the abilities in Destiny are very, they're not like Halo in that you can just use them as you have them. It is more of a cooldown-based system. Again, very MMO-like. So your grenade, you can see the cooldown counter on the bottom left. It's slowly filling back up and recharging. Once that's available again, then you can use it. And so it just constantly goes through a loop like that. And all of your abilities kind of work this way.
Yeah, and you could get armor and different weapons that will speed up those reload times. So you could, if you wanted to, you could outfit yourself to be able to throw more of these purple grenades all the time.
Yeah, and so like me playing as a hunter, I don't have a purple grenade, but I do have the ability to throw knives, which I guess because that's my class ability, it's super strong. So no other class can throw knives. They can stab with knives in melee range, but mine can throw them, and they do like way more damage than just a regular stab would do. I also have this really badass ability where I can pull out, like I can summon like a flaming revolver.
Yeah. And
you only got 3 shots, but for most enemies, they're almost always one-hit kills unless you're fighting like a captain or a much more powerful version of one of the aliens.
And that's also just one of the classes that the hunter has too. So that's the gunslinger class. There's another, I think it's like the shadow blade dancer or something.
Blade dancer sounds right.
And that class has a totally different set of moves that you could.
Yeah,
upgrade.
so every base class in the game, Warlock, Hunter, and Titan, have 2 subclasses that you get to choose from at level 15. So you kind of get to specialize. Pick what up until level 15, you get a really good sense of the various abilities a base class has. And once you start, pivoting toward one specific play style, then you get to really specialize at that level, and make sure all of your abilities are more in line with what you want to do. So that's a really cool aspect of the game. Okay, so we just leveled up, and now we're going to show you guys the skill trees for this particular class, the Warlock. So why don't you open up the skill tree, Lorenzo, and let's select a point, thing we want to upgrade. So you get skill points every time you level up, right?
Yep.
And you can see here the tree is pretty decently sized. Now, at first, it kind of only allows you to unlock the base skills from each of these abilities. But then as you play, you can start choosing between certain skills. So right now, we can only put our ability into the Nova Bomb, which will...
It's kind of your super. Like you get the grenades, and you get another ability on your triggers, and then when you press both your trigger buttons, you use like a super that builds up over time as you're fighting.
Yeah, so this is one of the Warlock's most powerful abilities, at least at this level.
Right.
We've got the new ability. Now let's upgrade some of the gear. So you get tons of different types of loot, and all of them have these little sort of passive upgrades that you can do. So you do have to spend Glimmer, which is a hilariously ridiculous name for the currency in the game, but hey, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So now what did you just do? You added...
glass half full, which is bottom half of each magazine causes additional damage.
So it kind of gives you more incentive to not instinctively reload after shooting 2 bullets.
Right.
Which is my worst habit on the planet.
Yeah, and the way you get this is you just use this gun more. The more you use it, the more upgrades you get. So the more you use your gun, if you like a gun, you'll get bonus damage, sometimes better sights, better ammo for it. So you get all these different cool little bonuses for sticking to.
And there's lots of different types of weapons too. They're from submachine guns to sniper rifles to shock rifles, all these cool things. You can also upgrade your pieces of armor much in the same way.
And what's cool is any class could use any weapon essentially. So you don't really have to be a hunter that's a sniper rifle wielding guy that shoots from long distance. You could be a hunter or a warlock that uses submachine guns or different. Whatever weapon you really want to use.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's jump into another mission real quick, and then we'll pick up from there.
Let's go to Earth because we're not very high level, but we'll just...
Why don't we show the Devil's Lair for... Nope, just kidding. That's
super hard.
So we don't want to do that yet.
Let's just go to the Explore zone, and we could just talk about the open world here.
Okay, so now we're back on Earth, and this is one of the free roaming missions where you run around and your ghost picks up like little beacons that give you side quests. So these are pretty simple missions, and there are tons of them to do, and they'll just give you more experience points and materials and currency and all that kind of stuff. And one of my favorite parts is every Guardian gets his own little speeder bike.
Yeah.
That thing's really fun to drive. And you know what? It handles, again, it's so easy to compare this game to Halo in so many ways, obviously since Bungie made both Destiny and Halo, but it does feel a lot to me like the Banshee. Is that the right one? I always confuse the Banshee and the Ghost. I'm pretty sure the Ghost is the one that flies around in the air.
Yeah, that's right.
But it does feel a lot like that. It's a great way to get around, because these maps are surprisingly large.
Yeah, you could really do some exploring here. There's all kinds of nooks and crannies where you could find little chests and other gear and special enemies and stuff. So
all right, so let's go ahead and try and find one of those side missions. So if you ever get lost, you can hold down a button and pop out your ghost.
This is totally Halo right here.
Oh yeah, flip it.
Flip it. Flip that. All right.
Why don't you, Lorenzo? If you pull out your ghost, I think he'll lead you to the missions that are currently available. There you go, right on your map. So there's one really close by.
Aha, there it is.
There you go.
Little
so
beacon.
You just run up to this thing, and it'll give you a little side quest you can do. And now, a lot of times you'll be running around in this area, and there will be other players, and you can just team up with them, or you don't have to. Either way, but it's pretty simple. So then you can just follow the ghost nav, and it'll kind of lead you through where to go.
So with this quest, I just need to go and kill a bunch of enemies, which is kind of just a typical MMO go kill a bunch of warthogs kind of quest.
Except at least you're fighting space aliens.
Yeah.
Now I wonder, I don't think either of us have played enough to know this for sure yet, but I do wonder, to get through some of these later story missions, I'm curious how much grinding you would actually have to do in zones like these. Like if you wanted to just blow through the story, could you do that feasibly without touching any of this side content? Or would you more or less be forced into doing this to just level up enough to be able to tackle the higher end story missions?
That is a good question. The way the beta worked, it seemed like it leveled you evenly enough so you didn't really have to do this too much. But, you know, it's there for a reason, so who knows? I'm
sure we'll have a better answer for that in the next day or two. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for how grindy it gets. Because I think, you know, one of the things that people like about MMOs is all of the group content that they allow you to do. It's really fun teaming up with a big group of people to achieve a very difficult task.
Right.
But
here we go. Oh, there's my special one.
Is that your super
this
power?
Is my super.
It just like
vaporized all of them.
disintegrated them. That's awesome. That is really cool. But yeah, one of the biggest things people don't like about MMOs is just how grindy they are, where you're just mindlessly doing the same tasks over and over to get to the fun stuff. So, hoping that's not the case here. We should have a better answer in the next day or two. But let's talk about while we're on the topic of teaming up with people to do cool things. Some of the things you can do in Destiny with other players. Now, obviously, you could just team up and clear missions like this. But two of the things I'm most excited about, because I always enjoy like the PvE stuff in MMOs the most.
Right.
Strike missions and raids. So let's start with strike missions. Those are your typical instanced dungeons that you would find in an MMO. So it's like 3 players, I believe, on a strike mission.
Right.
And you're running through a dungeon, and it's way more difficult than your average mission. You really do have to try and coordinate all of your abilities and skills to survive. Because there was one available in the beta. It was very, very fun, but it was really difficult. I think I attempted it like 3 or 4 times with various groups, and only one of the groups actually stuck through to figure it out. And so that one was really fun. But then there are also raids, right? And like this is an end game sort of content. Like this is what a lot of people play MMOs to do once you hit level cap. And so the way raids work is in Destiny, you team up with a total of 6 players, yourself included.
And those are friends only because supposedly these raids are so hard that if you're not a coordinated team, you're just not going to get anywhere. So Bungie's just like, friends only people that you're going to be talking to, which is kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, I can understand some people's frustration. Like, what if I'm not playing with 6 friends?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard enough to like. It's very difficult to coordinate like a night where you and 5 of your buddies can be like, hey, let's raid tonight.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to do that, you know. But so I can understand some people's frustration that it's friends list only, but it's easy enough to add people. If you use forums or message boards to find people interested in raiding, it's probably easy enough to coordinate it that way. A little bit annoying to do it, but totally possible. But let's talk about raids real quick. I myself have done tons of MMO raiding in very many different MMOs. WoW, I've done raiding in EQ2, I've done raiding in Age of Conan of all things.
Oh yeah.
And a bunch of different other MMOs as well. So the way that it typically works is you work with a big group of people, in this case 6, to take down really, 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 really difficult bosses. And so a lot of their mechanics are going to be really challenging. And part of the fun of raids is figuring out how to beat a boss. So sometimes you'll have to do things like kite enemies into a certain area, or exploit certain mechanics that a boss does against them. And it's really hard because a lot of times you're just getting destroyed, and it gets very frustrating. But through dying, you learn what to do and what not to do. So I imagine the raids here are not just going to be your typical, I'm going to go in and shoot this thing until it is dead. But we'll see.
Pro tip, everybody, there's a secret in that cave.
Oh, really? What's in there that you already picked up?
It's a gold chest.
Oh, man.
Go in there.
It's funny, we have a guide for all the gold chests on our website at GamesRadar.com.
That is funny.
Maybe that'll be useful for people to check out and get. Anyways, very excited about the strike missions, very excited about the raids. Haven't tried out, obviously, the raids yet because that is an end game thing that you do. But
Yeah.
if you're not really like, even if you like that stuff, but you're hoping to get a little bit more competitive play out of Destiny, then you jump into the Crucible.
In the Crucible, yeah. So the Crucible, it plays a lot like Halo multiplayer does. It's I forget how many players exactly. I think it's like 6 or 8 on 8. So it's small. It's not, you're not going to be doing 32 on 32 or anything like that, like Battlefield or anything like that.
Yeah.
So you get close combat maps. There's a lot of verticality to all the maps too. I found
Right.
From the ones that they showed in the beta at least, and not exactly sure how many total maps there are.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head either.
Probably a good amount. But, you could go in there, you could go and kill a bunch of dudes, get PvP gear that's unique to PvP. So, what is that? From the Vanguards, and I'm totally lost right now. Sorry.
Yeah, you can get gear that is better suited for PvP than it is, this doing quests and sorts of things like that, which is a pretty common thing for MMOs too. So, not really terribly surprising that it is also the case here. But yeah, the Crucible is really fun. It does very much have that Halo feel to it. It's very frantic and fast-paced and really intense, and that's been a really good thing for, I think, this game to have too. So it serves both audience types, right? So
yeah, you're definitely gonna want to gear out your guy for PvP too. Like I found that I really liked using the hand cannons for PvE.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I jumped into PvP, I just hated them. So I wanted I wanted more of like an automatic rifle for that kind of thing.
All right, so. Lorenzo, having played Destiny, for several hours now by this point, what are you feeling so far?
I'm really liking it. I'm looking forward to getting into more of like the raids, like you talked about, and more of the strike missions, and taking part in all the co-op. And so far with all the quests and everything, it's just a lot of fun to just run around and see the world that they've created. And there's like all these landmarks that are just really cool to look at. And I'm really just looking forward to seeing the rest of the planets that are available and all the different enemies to kill.
Yeah. I very much share in your sentiments there. I was also very surprised to feel, to see how fun the gunplay was. That was a big concern of mine going on, but it's no longer a concern at all now. I think for me, the big thing will end up being, is there enough endgame stuff to keep me interested once I hit cap? Am I going to have to grind a lot to get to cap? Will there be enough systems in place to keep me happy while I play? With only a day under our belt, it's hard to say for sure right now, and in any of those regards. But I think within another day or two, we'll probably have a much better idea. But yeah, I think overall, so far, really fun, and I haven't regretted my purchase at all. How about you?
No, not at all. Even though I, spent a lot of money on on the digital edition, but
Just starting out, liking the game, a lot of fun. But another couple days we'll have a much better idea of what to expect. So for now, thank you guys so much for watching our Destiny, first day impressions video. Be sure to check out our review in progress on GamesRadar.com, and we'll keep producing some more content about the game as we get more hands-on time with it. Until then, we'll see you next time.